All right, how's it going, everyone? It is the investing guy here, and I got Hutch right over here with me. How's it going, Hutch? How you doing?
Excellent, guy. Happy to be here. This is my first ever live stream. Do a lot of Twitter spaces, but this is pretty cool what you got going here.
Yeah, lives are pretty cool. I really enjoy some the lives. So I just got a tweet going out right now. So hopefully we
Let
get
me
a.
retweet it.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got the tweet going, and we'll see. Uh, hopefully more people hop in. Yeah, but if anyone in the audience has any questions, you guys can drop them down below.
I
Or
know you had some questions.
I did have some questions, so let's go ahead and get started, man. Um, all right, break it down for me. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I know Luna. I know some of the tokenomics. Some demand for Terra here and there. Demands more like burning for Luna. But can you kind of break it down for me a little bit more? Like, what is? I understand. Like, there's people that believe that the tokenomics for Luna are like none other. So break it down for me.
Well, why don't we start with some of your kind of concerns or fuzzy questions? Because I'm assuming anybody that would join us live knows something about it too, but they probably have a lot of the same fuzziness, if you will. So why don't
Yeah.
you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, where are you fuzzy? Because I know you've gotten in some, but I guess what I'm hearing is that you're not totally all in and you're not totally buying all the hype, which is valid. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are in the same boat. So what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a believer in. All right, let me tell you the story. All right, Hutch?
Okay.
It's story time.
Shoot.
So when I first got into crypto, I bought a few cryptos, and Luna was one of them. And I
Okay.
bought Luna, I think, at like super cheap. I think at the time it was like $3, 4, 5, something like that. It was extremely low, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it got up to $15, I decided to sell. I sold all my Luna, and well, that was one of the biggest mistakes in crypto that I've done.
Yes and
Because
no. I mean that's a good score too,
yeah,
right?
it was a good score. It was, looking back, it was a good score, but I did it with the intentions that, hey, when it pulls back, I'm gonna go ahead and buy it back. But it never
Mm-hmm.
did. It just kept going, and it kept going, and it kept going, and it pretty much has kept going ever since. Other than that pullback that we had, when it went right back down to the 50s, and then it continued right back to where it was, and actually hitting new all time highs. Luna hitting new all time highs. That was nice. How are you feeling about that?
About the pullback to the 50s or
No,
the
the
or where
new
we're
all
at
time
now.
highs.
Yeah, no, I feel great. I feel like it's broken out and now it's kind of bouncing off the old resistance, now new support. And I'm hoping we're gonna create new all-time highs. But going back to your question, is what I'm hearing that basically it's almost like you're a little bit salty that you missed it. So it's like I sold it at 15. Why would I buy it at 100?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what's going on there, and I really like what Luna has going on. I do like. I've always liked it,
Mhm.
and some people that I know didn't sell when I sold,
Mhm.
and my sister, she always smacks me in the face with that one, and she's like, "Well, I still have Luna," and
Good
I
for her.
yeah, she's that's still her biggest her biggest
So
score. She bought it even lower than me, so
so
yeah.
let's address some behavioral finance psychology, which I think
Exactly.
kind of gets
That's
in the
what's going on
way.
with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that gets in the way with a lot of people's crypto success is the mindset that they come into the crypto space with. So we can get into Luna because I love Luna, not a financial advice. Obviously, none of this is. But let's just start with the behavioral finance. Most people think of crypto as kind of this somewhere between like a cross between a lottery ticket and a casino.
Yeah.
And let's face it, as much as we love this space, when we look back 5 or 10 years from now, 98 to 99% of this stuff is going to go poof and be gone. And so there is this propensity to kind of take gains while you have them. And even with Luna, there's a lot of volatility. So when it went from 3 to 15, it actually went to the 20s and then it came back down to 654 before shooting back up and never looking back. Other than the volatility when it shot to 50 and then came back down to 35 and then it shot to 70 and it came back down to 50 again and then it shot to 100 and it came back down to 40s again and now we're back over 100. So the volatility tends to shake people out, but you have to determine and decipher which cryptos are a trade and which cryptos are an investment for you. And what I realized, and it goes back to, are you familiar with the hodl, where the origins of hodl, that expression comes from? The when crypto people misspell hold. Do you know where that came from?
Well, not really. I know that it came from, supposedly it's like some old Reddit person like misspelled hold, right? Like just hold.
Yeah.
And ever since it's just been, people have just taken off with it, right? Just hodl.
Yes. So if you go back, you can find the actual rant. I can pull it up if you really want me to, but it might throw off my flow. I'll paraphrase. But you can go back and find the original rant. And he was drunk. He was wasted. It was a drunken tweet. It wasn't a tweet, but it was a drunken post, if you will. And in the post, and I'm paraphrasing, he basically says, "I'm not good enough to be a trader. And the only way to beat them is just to hold." And he did misspell it up top, which is why it went there. But there's some really awesome behavioral finance wisdom. And what he says is, if you are good enough to be a trader, and I know some in this space, and they're amazing, right? They are very, very good traders.
Yeah.
If you're not on that level, the more you trade, the more you're losing value, the more you're going to get chopped up. And the only way to beat them in that zero sum game is just to hold and let all the traders create the volatility, and then pick long-term projects that you believe in. For him, it was Bitcoin, and that's about all there was back then.
Yeah.
And by just holding Bitcoin, obviously anybody who got into it in the 2000 teens would be very, very happy now.
Exactly. So I think where that brings me to, I have cryptos that I trade, and then I have cryptos that I just hold. For example, Litecoin is one of the ones that I trade. Litecoin I don't hold. I just trade when I see it at a good price. I buy it and then I sell it, buy and sell, buy and sell.
Yeah.
I was doing the same with Luna, but lately, I guess when I have two cryptos that are like actually three that are long-term holds for me, and that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. Those are just like, I'm just holding, long-term, right? And so I think I'm at the point now where I'm realizing that Luna, it needs to be one of those long-term holds for me. Like
oh yeah, it does. Oh yeah, it
is
does.
going
It
to
might
be.
even need to replace one of those.
I think I know. I think I know which one.
I'll reserve judgment.
Yeah.
At least verbally for now. But even I started as an ETH maxi, right?
Yeah.
And just because of the utility of ETH, and I've since gravitated to really be very bullish on Bitcoin and Luna. And the reason why I lost interest in ETH is just as a user. Like, it's one thing to be an investor and just keep all your stuff in it on an exchange and sell and buy and trade and whatever. But when you start actually using DeFi, decentralized finance, and the platforms or apps or businesses built on the blockchain, Ethereum was the first DeFi, or programmable money, smart contracts, whatever you call it, platform. But it's really unusable for anybody but whales and institution because of the cost. And even if you could afford the costs, it's really very slow and inefficient, and the UI is terrible.
Yeah, I think I agree completely there with you, because I mean, there was a time when I dabbled with the NFTs, and I should have made a lot of profits, but a lot of it was eaten away by these gas fees from Ethereum, and so that was a bummer. I still made good money, but it should have been more. It should have definitely been more than what I took home. But I definitely understand where that's coming from there. Oh, I think, let's see. Did he freeze? Chat, how's it going? Can you guys see me in the chat? Let me see what's going on here. Let me remove Hutch, and I'm going to ask him to come back in. I think it might have frozen. Is it me, or it might have been Hutch? Yep, it froze. Hutch is frozen. All right. Okay, so it's only me. All right, I'm going to wait for Hutch to come back in. But if you guys have any questions, drop them down below, and I'll try to answer them for you guys. But this is interesting. I'm like I was telling Hutch, Luna is going to be one of those cryptos that I'm really thinking that I'm gonna turn into a long-term hold. But let me go ahead and send Hutch the invite again to get him back in here. Give me a second, guys. Let me see. There we go. Oh, he's back. All right, he's back in. Oh, there he is. You're back in. All right, there you go. You're back in.
I only pay 3 digits a month for good internet, so therefore it only breaks down like 3 times a day. It's unbelievable. Don't even get me started. When is decentralized internet coming? So where do we leave off? Ethereum being unusable, you getting gas fees eating into your NFT profits.
Gas fees eating so much, man. Eating so much. Yeah. You know what's I just got into do you know anything about Alice Finance? What's up with that?
Yeah, I do. It's essentially an on ramp, and I believe now it's actually an off ramp. And for those that don't know, when you get money into the crypto space or into the blockchain, it usually starts with fiat currency wherever you're from. If you're from America, it's the US dollar. If you're from Europe, it's the euro. And obviously, there's lots of forms of fiat currency out there. But you need an on ramp. You need to somehow get an exchange or something that will accept fiat currency and convert it to crypto. So you can trade on whatever chain you want to trade or transact or whatever you want to do. So Alice Finance was probably the most notable talked about on-ramp. There's several now. There's Cato, there's Cash with a K. But those are the outlet finance. I think and they all have some version of whether it's a debit card or some kind of interface where you can just link your checking account and zap fiat currency on and trade it for UST, which is Terra's native stablecoin, which is really the crux when you really get into Luna and Terra. That's really the crux of the value proposition. In addition to it having DeFi capabilities like Ethereum, albeit faster and cheaper and a better UI, the real differentiator between Terra Luna and something like Ethereum or something like AVAX or something like Solana or all these Cardano that either have or have talked about having some sort of DeFi functionality. What differentiates Terra Luna is the fact that they have their native stablecoin called US Terra. And Alice is pretty much the premier. It's one of the ways to on-ramp it. Truth be told, I think Cato is a little bit cheaper in that it's only like $2 per 1,000 to on-ramp fiat. And I think Alice is a little bit more to on-ramp. But the benefit of Alice is for people like your normie friends and family that just want a one-stop shop. If you get money on Alice, even if it costs you a little bit more to get on there, like I don't remember if it's 5% or whatever it is. Once you get it on there, you can click a button and start earning the anchor yield earn, which is like like banks call high yield savings account, something that starts with a dot, like .5 or .6.
0.5.
Yeah. Like I always say, it's a rate of return that starts with a dot. How can you even say high yield savings account and have the return start with a dot? Like,
high yields are dead. I remember back in the days when there were a few that had like 3 or 4%, but now that those are all gone. Your traditional bank, those are all gone.
Yeah. So I remember having an ING account before ING became Voya, and it was like I was earning like 6 and change. And remember when it went down to 5 and change and 4 and change and all that. But yeah, on Anchor Earn right now you can earn 19, and a governance proposal just passed that they're going to do a dynamic earn rate. So it probably will be going down in the future, but needless to say, it's a lot more than what you can get in traditional finance.
Yeah. So how does that? Because what really got me interested was I actually went in and bought. I was like, you know what? Screw my honor. I'm going in and I bought Luna right when they said that they were going to purchase Bitcoin. I was like, that's it. That did it for me. So
smart man.
So you want to go in and tell us how that's like how is this like a game changer for you? Like what makes this such a positive news, I guess.
Sure. Well, this gets into some of the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Probably the biggest FUD about Terra or Luna, or especially with UST, but just the whole ecosystem. And by the way, just so it's really clear, Terra is the ecosystem, UST or US Terra is the stable coin. Luna is call it the volatile token that it goes up and down, whereas UST tracks the value of a dollar and is supposed to be stable. Well,
And
the
you call these
FUD,
those
go
are
ahead.
called algorithmic altcoins, right? Algorithmic stable coins, correct? And
Yeah, so it's a stable coin, and then there's a distinction among stable coins between centralized stable coins, and that would be something like USDC or USDT that is not algorithmic. It holds it allegedly is supposed to hold its value of the dollar because they allegedly have dollar for dollar backing of traditional finance investments somewhere in a bank that some centralized entity or person is controlling. And therefore, you should always theoretically be able to redeem $1 of USDT for $1 of the dollar or USD. The distinction between, there's a couple distinctions, but the distinction between that and UST or US Terra is that it is an algorithmic stable coin. And so the first thing that'll come to a normie's mind is, oh, well, if they don't have that amount of an investment somewhere in a bank somewhere, it's not really backed. There's no FDIC insurance. Like, that's even real. Like, like it's one thing if some podunk bank in the middle of like Kansas goes broke, FDIC might save that, right?
yeah,
But if there's a run on, say, Chase Bank or Bank of America and Wells Fargo, if there's an actual run where everybody is going to call for their FDIC at once,
no.
like, well, I'm just saying they could. And what would the government do? They're doing what they're doing now. What would the Fed do? They print more money.
Yep.
And so it's like that's an example of a death spiral for TradFi. And that's the major FUD about UST is that there's the possibility of this death spiral. And I think it's good to bring up because most crypto people tend to kind of sugarcoat, right, the positives and hide around the FUD. And I think it's good to hit the FUD head on. And it speaks to your question about the Bitcoin. Backing is not the correct word, but Bitcoin safety valve, if you will. So let's go back to the death spiral with UST, because if you think about like Luke Skywalker and the Death Star and like say that Terra is this awesome space station being built, there's one little kind of exhaust port that could blow it up. And that's this death spiral thing that essentially if there was a run on UST for whatever reason, who knows, like there was some kind of minor hack or maybe even major hack or some kind of crazy regulation. It's hard to imagine. They can't really regulate it. It's out in space, right? It's out on the blockchain. Like, who do you regulate, right? But let's just say there was some kind of FUD that caused a run on the UST bank and everybody went to go redeem their UST at the same time. Well, the way that the algorithmic stablecoin works is it's a seigniorage process in that every dollar of UST or US Terra can equal a dollar of Terra Luna at any time. And similar to Bitcoin, where there's a finite supply, there's only 21 million Bitcoin ever. With Luna, I believe it's 1 billion Bitcoin ever. And they're not all in circulation now, but once they all get in circulation, the more people that adopt UST, the more people that go to mint UST to park it and earn 19% or to transact on the Terra network or to buy NFTs or to do different DApps, whatever they want to do. And there's lots of businesses or protocols or apps being built on Terra now. They will need and want UST to transact. So the more people that do that, the more Luna will be burned. So kind of like how the gold standard existed before 1972 when Richard Nixon did away with it. It's almost like there's the Luna standard to agree to a degree, but a lot of people are like, well, I know what gold is, and I feel pretty good about that, but what the heck is Luna? I don't know what that is. And also, if it's correlated to the UST, I'm going to get into the death spiral. There's a situation where if UST loses its peg and goes down, and everybody starts selling their UST, so it loses its peg more, what happens is when a dollar of UST is burned, well, then a dollar of Luna must be minted. So now it's going to start flooding the market with Luna, which is going to make the supply. And so then the price of Luna is going to go down. And it could be this death spiral. That's the major FUD. That's the exhaust port in the Death Star, if you will. And so what the Terraform Labs did is they still have a lot of that Luna, and they donated a crazy amount. I believe it was five billion to LFG.org, which stands for Luna Foundation Guard. And somebody tweeted, "How come shouldn't it be called the Luna Guard Foundation?" And Do Kwon, the leader of Terraform Labs, the founder, said, "Yeah, but if we did that, we couldn't call it LFG."
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's I was surprised when I was looking at my bank statement and I transferred some money and it was LFG Foundation. I'm like, interesting, LFG Foundation. That's what came out in my bank statement. So yeah,
It's
interesting.
beautiful. So to just close the loop on that, LFG is now taking that money and dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, not as a backing. Again, it's not going to be a dollar for dollar backing. And this is important because regulators have started to say if stablecoins are backed, then we need to regulate and we need to kind of police what the backing is. But if they're not backed, then that's a different story. So it actually kind of insulates UST from at least the current regulatory language that's coming out, the rhetoric that's coming out about regulation. It actually doesn't even fall under that. But what it is it's like a safety valve. So if we have that situation where people are dumping UST and all this Luna's flooding the market, and then people are dumping that, when I believe the number that they sold it at is 98 cents. If UST's peg is not worth $1, it gets to 98 cents, which, by the way, a lot of things need to happen there first. Because right now you can exchange 99 cents worth of UST for $1 worth of real world goods and services via Alice or via Bidali gift cards. Like you can go buy real stuff with it right now. So the more it goes down, there's arbitragers, retail, that will just say, cool, I'll buy this on sale and go buy the stuff I want to buy at a 2% discount.
Yeah.
And
I did see that. And I wanted, because how difficult is it to do that? Because I was doing some research and I saw people, like, there's a bunch of these videos of like Luna arbitrage and this going on. And, like, how difficult is it to do that? Is it relatively simple or?
Well, yeah, you just have to, you could set up limit orders in some kind of exchange where you're buying, you just put a limit order. When UST gets to a certain price, you buy it with USD or USDT or whatever other stable value token or asset you have in there. So that's a possibility. I actually have a video on swaps. So I have a channel called Hutch on Crypto. It's a YouTube channel. And I have a video on swaps and arbitrage, but not so much swapping. Oh no, did I freeze again?
No, you're good.
Okay, cool. It's not so much about swapping for UST. It's about swapping different derivatives of Luna. And I'm going to be coming out with a new one because the space has evolved very quickly. So keep your eye out for that. There's going to be a cool new video about swaps. I'm traveling a lot in April, but sometime in April. But there's actual protocols. Like there's one called White Whale Protocol on Terra that you could just deposit your UST. I think they promise you 20% instead of the 19%, but it may work out to be more than 20% depending on how many arbitrage opportunities present themselves. And that's really important because a lot of people aren't going to go crazy degen like us. They just kind of want the easy button, right? And they want to put their money in somewhere and feel good that it's not going to get hacked and get a good rate of return. So White Whale protocol does that. But going back to the Bitcoin, if UST gets below 98 cents, like let's say it gets to 95 cents, right, on the dollar, and people are going, you know what? I don't know if UST is going to make it. I just want out. Well, now they'll be able to get Bitcoin. They'll be able to get 98 cents of Bitcoin for one, like basically $1 or one UST will get them a higher amount of Bitcoin, if that makes sense. It's going to be a release valve that'll take pressure off flooding Luna with the market to hopefully give time to stabilize the entire ecosystem, if you will. Does that make sense?
I see that. Yeah. So it's like an emergency reserve. Yeah. Just in case if anything happens, we're tapping into this emergency reserve and things will settle down, hopefully, right?
That's the hope. And they didn't want to make it too high, like 99 cents or $1, because they didn't want to turn into like a DEX for buying Bitcoin, a decentralized exchange. They only wanted to come into play when things are getting bad. So I don't remember. I heard 98. I've also heard 97, but it'll be some number. So if there's an extreme depegging, that people can always kind of redeem for a higher amount of Bitcoin, if you will, than what an extreme depegging would offer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I really like that. That you have that, at least you have that security that if you can't get, you'll always be able to get at least some Bitcoin if some sort of emergency does happen. So that I like that. I didn't understand it that way, so now that you said it, it makes me feel even more confident.
Well, hopefully I said it right. And again, I may have said it wrong. I've just read some threads and heard about it, but who knows? I could have even said it wrong. But in some way, shape, or form, it is there to stabilize, not back, but is there to stabilize the whole ecosystem in the event of an extreme depegging.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Let's see. What else did I have here? So... All right, can you go into one other thing that I wanted to touch on was how can Terra or T, what is it, LFG, is it what? Yeah, LFG. How can how can LFG, how can they pay that insane yield? Like, how is that even possible? I remember watching a video and saying that right now they're technically kind of losing money. Is that correct? And that eventually, the yield is going to lower. But the hopes in that is that they retain, this loyal base of people that use this product to eventually be profitable. Did I get that correct?
You did, and it's cool. We're just hitting all the FUD today. So hopefully we'll transition, because I think this is the last of the FUD. We can transition to some fun stuff. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So and it's not LFG, it's Anchor Protocol. So Anchor Protocol is the, call it the cornerstone DApp or protocol built on Terra. And it's a savings and lending protocol, almost like a bank. People talk about using crypto as their own bank, where there's two sides. You can deposit UST and earn that 19%. Again, a governance proposal just passed where it's going to be a dynamic earn rate. So it'll start going down. And then there's a borrowing protocol where you could deposit B Luna. That's another version of Luna that you can swap to and kind of get some good arbitrage at times. Right now, it's actually pretty flat. But usually when there's volatility, that's when you see a disconnect. And you can actually, when the sky is falling and there's blood in the streets, you can usually get good arbitrage in B Luna, meaning like you could trade 10 Luna for maybe or call it 100. You could trade 100 Luna for like 102 B Luna, or maybe 103.
Oh, I see. Got it.
I've gotten over 104 before. I guess in the good old days, back when you were selling, people would get like 120. Yeah. Wow. But at any rate, so if you convert your Luna to B Luna, which is called bonded Luna, and you park your bonded Luna on Anchor Protocol, you can use that as collateral to borrow UST. And a lot of people use that to buy more Luna, or they invest in yield farming strategies where maybe they earn more than the 19%, right? Maybe they're earning 40, 50, 60, 70%. And so they're okay with the borrowing cost. And also there's a lost opportunity cost with the staking. So you're right in that right now, it's almost like there's a teaser rate, and TFL, Terraform Labs, has contributed millions of dollars. In fact, they just contributed $450 million to what's called the yield reserve, which is basically just getting eaten up by depositors who are depositing and earning that 19%. But the hope is, and the goal is, that the protocol will actually be self-sustaining after at least a couple of years. I think there's 2 more years of free money coming. But they are losing money. What's that?
I said, I like free money.
Who don't like free money? Here's a way to look at it. And this is something that I think is attractive to me about DeFi. These opportunities still exist for like the ultra wealthy and VCs out in the world. So if there was a new kind of, call it neo techie bank coming out, there would be VCs or venture capitalists that would invest, and they would get a bunch of shares of stock for like pennies on the dollar just to provide them liquidity. Well, thankfully, Luna's price pumped so much that Terraform Labs is able to give away that free money. And so if you think about it, they could give it away to marketing companies, venture capital firms to go pump their name and get collaborations, or they could just reward early adopters. And that's what they're doing in hopes of bringing in users. And once the users come on and they find out, like me coming from Ethereum, like, oh my gosh, this is cheap, fast, really easy to use. I can just click and I can deposit money for 25 cents and earn 19%. Or shoot, I need a loan quick. I can deposit collateral for 25 cents and I can take a loan for 25 cents. And it's like, click, click. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. I will say this though. So a lot of people saying, oh, they're giving away 19%. One of the things they forget, let's just forget that like there was no subsidies whatsoever. In order for me to borrow, I have to park B Luna. But B Luna, if I didn't park it in Anchor, I actually earn a staking yield right now of about, it's not quite 7%, but it's been higher. Let's just round and call it 7%. And usually somebody who's conservative might post 2x. I'm just going to use round numbers. They might park 2x the amount of collateral for their loan so they don't get liquidated. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So it's essentially the protocol itself from that person would be earning 14%. So they're not that far away from the 19, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the long-term vision of the protocol. And what's great is it started with just B Luna and B ETH. B ETH doesn't yield that much, but now they've added Avalanche. Atom is coming. Atom yields about 14%. So listen, if somebody parked double the amount of Atom, now you're at 28% that the protocol earns. And so they can afford to pay the depositors. Yeah. Now, what'll probably happen is the yield will compress somewhere to the low double digit. It'll go to like the mid double digits, then low double digits. And then who knows where interest rates go, right? But if you think about something and call it like what Voyager pays at 9%, if they just paid depositors 9% and I park double the amount of Luna to borrow, I'd be putting in 14% worth of yield-bearing assets, and so they could easily pay the 9%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of like I'm thinking financier, like over collateralized loans, something like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. What I'm getting from.
It's what it is. But in order for me to borrow, I have to give up a staking yield, and I have to give up more than 1 for 1. It may not be as much as 2 for 1, but let's say let's take 7% again. Yeah. If I parked 1.5x, if I parked 150% of the collateral, right? Let's say I parked $15,000 of Luna to borrow $10,000.
Got it.
Well, going back to just the 10,000 that I borrowed, if I parked equal that amount of Luna, I'd be giving up 7%. But if I give up 1.5x that, I'm giving up 10.5%. Agreed?
Yep.
So they could easily pay 9.
Yes. Because they're getting.
That's the future. That's the future of Anchor protocol right there.
Got it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So now what do we get into? I think one thing that really attracted me into for Luna was one thing that I see going around a lot is just the amount of Luna that is being, well, I guess as of now, since the demand for Terra or UST, the demand for Terra is so high that the amount of Luna is just constantly going down and down, which is obviously causing the price of Luna to also go up. So where do you see that going? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I've heard different things. I've heard that there's, again, not all billion Luna are out in supply yet. So I don't know if that makes as big of a difference now as it will in the future. Okay. But I think a lot, yes, Luna does get burned a lot. And I think that does have some effect, especially when people are posting how much Luna is getting burned. I think a lot of the big run came from, well, why did you say you bought it this time?
because I see the
You told me.
potential.
But why? What in particular?
The
You
price
saw
action
that they did a
and
collaboration
Bitcoin,
with,
yeah, and Bitcoin, yeah.
who is the biggest, call it, overall market in crypto? It'd be people into Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
And they're known as maxis or maximalists,
Hmm.
correct? And they're into what? Centralized stuff or decentralized stuff?
Decentralized. Yeah. So
Right. So I think what's happening is you're starting to see more and more Bitcoin money come in, and more people like you that maybe aren't diehard Bitcoin only, but they saw the collaboration and they're like, wait a second, this is a game changer. I
yep.
got to get in on this. And now the price is starting to go up. And if we should, what's crazy is we're right at the crux of a breakout, right? Like we kind of broke the all-time highs, and then we're kind of like right here, kind of bouncing off the old all-time highs.
Exactly. It wants
If
to
we
break
shoot
out.
up to 120s and 130s, FOMO is going to kick in,
Yeah.
and we're going to go big.
Yeah. That's what I see kind of happening too. And I think also, like you were saying, with the whole Bitcoin, all these people that believe in Bitcoin, you have all these people that believe in Bitcoin, and yet you can, they need stable coins. They need stable coins. Everyone needs stable coins. And so for me, it's interesting because you can have a stable coin like USDC or USDT or something like that, or you can have UST, which is backed by Bitcoin. And so that's where a lot of people are going to be like, well, I'm going to go with something that I believe in, something that's not backed by Bitcoin, but like you said it, where it's going to cause, like, it's causing that demand. So I see it happening. And
I think so too. It's worth noting that there's a cool, it's a Vimeo video that's by Terraform Labs that they put out about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's like a 7 minute. It's highly produced. Do Kwon's in there. Some of the original founders are in there. I think SJ Park is in there. But essentially, he said that they show him on the whiteboard and they started plotting out fulfilling Satoshi's vision. So Satoshi, the anonymous founder of Bitcoin, the vision was decentralized, permissionless, peer-to-peer finance. And all that's great, except for nobody wants to spend their Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah, no one wants to spend their Bitcoin.
And it, like, even in the Bitcoin maxi culture, it's, they think it can be all Bitcoin, but then at the same time, they say that out of one side of their mouth, but out of the other side of the mouth, they're saying like it's a sin to sell one Satoshi, right?
Yeah.
You sold one Satoshi, like angels in heaven are crying. What are you doing, right?
Which is that's a thing that I found interesting, because I mean, like, that's what you're getting into crypto for. The whole point of it is to eventually be able to, to use that crypto for your finances or whatever your goal is. For me, it's like to have some financial freedom. That's
Yeah.
my goal. And so eventually I do want to use some of this crypto, but I do see that it's like you can't. It's always accumulate, always accumulate, always accumulate. When do you get to enjoy the fruits of it?
Well,
So
you can enjoy the fruits of it whenever, but the problem with taking a scarce asset like Bitcoin, which I like Bitcoin a lot,
yeah,
there's only 21 million. It's like digital gold. And so for me, it's kind of a last resort. Or take El Salvador. There's a nation who's adopted Bitcoin as an actual currency, as like legal tender for their country, which is amazing. Like, that's an amazing milestone in this industry, and I salute them for that. But if you think about am I still there? You're frozen. Am I there?
you're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. You froze on me for a second. I'm like, oh my gosh. Cool. So you take like the shop owner, right? Owns a local deli in what do you call it, in El Salvador,
Yep.
and he sells a Coke and a sandwich in the morning and takes on Bitcoin, and he doesn't get to convert that till later in the day or later in the week or whenever he goes to scrape it, right? He doesn't necessarily want to lose value. There's a really strong chance that if there's a way to just exchange that for fiat currency, he would do it right there. Or he might choose a stable coin because it's cheaper, faster, more efficient, which is actually, a lot of people don't know this. That's how Luna started. It actually started as the Chai Network, which was a network of vendors in Asia. And since it was so expensive to cross borders in that clustered little area over there, they made stablecoin for each of the countries there. And a lot of the vendors and the merchants didn't even realize they were transacting on blockchain, but it was cheaper, faster, clean UI. And so they did it. And so that's to me, the end game of stablecoins. Like you said, everybody needs a stablecoin. Well, people don't realize they need a stablecoin. Like, why? But I think once they understand the use case behind it, they will want a stablecoin if it can hold its value, right? If it's cheaper, quicker, easier UI to transact with, and they can earn a nice yield. Like now that shop owner, when he sells his sandwich and Coke, he could be parking and earning, whether it's 9 or 19, shoot, even if it's 6, he could be earning something and not have to worry about volatility of the asset. And that's really why Do Kwon said the stablecoin is the most important type of asset in crypto, which, going full circle to the beginning of our conversation, most people, when they think of crypto, they're thinking of some lottery ticket or crazy casino. How am I going to 10x my money? Like you 10x or 5x your Luna. It's like, okay, now when am I going to jump into SHIB or Solana to try and get another 5 or 10x? And everybody's doing this kind of dance, and it's all the same money moving around from here to there, whatever. In order to really bring in mass adoption, there needs to be more businesses, more protocols, more use cases that are actually being built on chain. And I would concur. I would say that people aren't going to want to use Bitcoin or give away an asset to transact on this network, or an Ethereum or a Luna or a Solana. Why do you want to give away an asset that can go up in value if you believe in that network? You're going to want a stablecoin.
Yep.
And to me, that is like, if you asked, because you said you were thinking about buying, not financial advice, but if you believe in that mentality, that there's going to be more and more use cases, more businesses, and people will want to transact via stablecoin, that is your use case.
Yep. Yeah. So I think, when do you, I mean, I believe that mass adoption, well, we see UST, back then we had USDC and USDT as the main kind of like stable coins. But now we're seeing a lot more places adopt UST. And so that's another reason why I'm feeling a little bit more confident in Luna also. And not to mention that when I did sell my Luna, I had no idea what Luna was. I'm not gonna lie. When I bought Luna at like $3, what was that?
You were going for momentum. That's like everybody.
Yeah. I bought it. I'm not even gonna lie. I bought it because of the name. I was like, I like the name. I bought it. And
right.
But
and that's okay. Most people like it just because there's a dog in the name somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, Mooncoin, good. It's kind of like that meme. You see the meme where it's like it's the bell curve, and then there's like the Jedi kid over here, and then there's the guy that looks like he's special over here, and then there's the guy who's angry up top.
Oh,
you know what meme I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think
right. So it's like, yeah, you have like the Jedi kid over here. It's like, oh yes, UST stablecoin, tokenomics. And then this guy over here is like Mooncoin good, but it's like saying like both those outliers will win. The people who won't win are all the people like it's a Ponzi, the FUD, the death spiral, blah blah blah, right? Yeah,
and I've seen that a lot on Twitter. It's like every post that you see on Luna has a lot of haters, huh? Because a lot of the posts that I see, it's like it's a Ponzi. I'm like, wait, okay, well, I mean.
I think that's just social media, man. I mean, listen, for some reason, it's a horrible phenomenon in this country that people like to get on social media to vent their frustrations.
Yeah.
Whether it's about politics or whatever, like it's like they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable enough to be however they're acting in public. And so they feel very comfortable venting that way in social media. So I think that's part of it.
And I'm thinking that, I'm thinking that maybe those people were like in a similar boat as me. But then again, you have two ways to react. You can be one of those persons that gets on social media and just starts ranting and getting at random people that you don't even know, or you can actually do some research and do some action about it. And I don't know. I think that's kind of what I'm doing now. I don't have a ton of money. I'm a teacher. I'm an elementary school teacher, so I don't have a bunch of money. But I
Good for
do
you,
what.
man.
Hey, thanks.
That's really great. You are doing a great thing.
Hey,
I know a lot
thanks,
of
man.
teachers.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
a teacher. Go on, teacher. There you go. That's what you should have called instead of guy. You're like, what name should I call you? Teacher. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but like whatever I can, I want to put in something that I believe in, and that brings me to Luna. Like lately, and me and my sister always talk crypto. She's really into crypto, and me and my sister always
Mhm.
talk crypto. And I always tell her like, dude, I'm Luna. Like I'm falling in love with Luna. Like, and I just buy as much as I can. But yeah,
You're
I think I'm
you're
gonna
you're in the right place, man. And you know what? You're still early. And guess what? If it goes down,
buy
just
some
keep the
more.
DCA.
Yeah,
Yeah. What I will say, so going back to the teacher topic and going back to the spiteful, hateful social media, what I love about the Terra community, and it's not the first place, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But I first fell in love with Luna for something else, but I stayed. I found Luna and I stayed because of the community. It is an amazing community. So I don't know if have you done the Twitter spaces? You've obviously done with Big T and the Voyager crew. Love that crew. But notice that the Big T and the Voyager, Lucky, Obi, those guys started mashing up with Sephi and Sephi doing his Twitter spaces. Talk about a teacher. I mean, the guy's, I think he was a doctor, but he's somewhere in the medical profession doing
yeah,
some major stuff. And he spends a crazy amount of time doing live streams like this on Twitter spaces, educating the community. And it's really a cool community that is really trying to educate from the ground up and lift people up and also give a balanced approach. Like just like you and I here, we spend a lot of time addressing the FUD. And there's risk. Of course there's risk. There's always on blockchain smart contract risk. There's the added depegging risk. And it's really just a risk reward question. But if you see the potential of what we're talking about, is it worth that reward? Well, that's for you to decide. But what's great is if you try to lean in for any amount that you're comfortable with, because usually that's what happens. What happens is you find an amount that you're comfortable with and you say, okay, I'll lean in. You can jump on these Twitter spaces for free and ask questions. And these guys are amazing. I hop on when I can. I'm still working in real life too. So I kind of hop on in little lunch breaks or when I'm driving. And so I'll pop on. But they are just every day schooling up whoever comes in, which is amazing.
I see it, man, and I see those. I have jumped in a few with Sephi, and you guys have a huge community, man. It's like, sometimes whenever I see a Twitter space with like 50 or 60, I'm like, this has a lot, but you guys are like up in the hundreds. It can get, there's a lot of people in there, so it's a huge community.
It's Sephi, and so it's at capital CEPHII1. If you see Sephi, if you follow him, there might be like 50 people on there, but when Sephi gets on, it'll turn into like 1 to 300 like that. And I've
Yeah,
seen
I
him as
think.
high as 400 and 500.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been on one where Sephi has been. Lately I've been trying to I have a commute home, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like a 30-minute commute. So I either listen to a podcast or I'll jump into a Twitter space and just listen. So I believe I have jumped in some of the Luna Twitter spaces, and yeah, it's a good community, man.
The guy's a saint. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm at Hutch on the go, just so everybody knows on Twitter. I am not as active as Sephi on the spaces. Like he'll do like he got COVID and he did like a 12-hour space. When
Oh
he found
man.
out he had COVID, I'm like, bro, aren't you supposed to have fatigue? He's an absolute machine. I think he's a Terminator. But yeah, I'm at Hutch on the go. But I'll try and post something insightful at least once or twice a day
Yeah.
and interact with the community.
And for anyone watching a replay of this video, your socials, I did put them on the description. So I believe I
Oh,
have
cool.
your Twitter, and then I also have his YouTube channel. So if you guys have not subscribed to his YouTube channel, definitely go and subscribe. Show Hutch some love. For anyone that's watching a replay, or if you're just on the audience and you haven't subscribed to him, definitely go hit that subscribe for him. The link is down below, I believe.
Thanks, Guy.
Yeah, I got you.
You do. Is it? I was gonna circle back, and then we could probably. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. We could wrap, but the thing that really brought me into Luna, and I'm saying this because I'm going to be releasing some videos this week. One teaser video of a little series I'm going to do. But what really got me into it was the borrowing aspect and the leverage aspect. And most people think borrowing is bad. They hear borrowing and they're like, bad, bad. But truth be told, I'm actually ex-financial planner in real life. I actually sold my firm and dropped my licenses so I can get into crypto. I'm still not full-time crypto, so I still do a lot in the insurance space. It's an old stodgy industry, but I'm actually going to an insurance conference next week, and I'm hoping to get, when they're ready to join the blockchain club, they're going to need some consultants. So I'm hoping to help out with that, being ahead of the curve here. But you can borrow against certain types of life insurance, which is an interesting phenomenon. I've been doing that for a while. I've been borrowing against stocks. Again, none of this is financial advice. Everybody has to do their own research. Borrowing against stocks, and it's a way to get $1 wearing additional hats. And the reason I say this is because most people just hear borrow and they think bad. And you can get wrecked. You absolutely can get wrecked if you don't manage the positions and you don't borrow responsibly and you don't have some kind of exit strategy. But if you do, you can actually it's how like the wealthy get even wealthier. And they've been doing it for ages. And it's part of, I think, the conspiracy to keep interest rates so low for so long now, because they basically, that just lowered their leverage rate. And the reason why you see this wealth divide happening is because they have been exponentially building wealth through borrowing. Meanwhile, teaching the public that don't borrow, it's bad. Put your money in this bank and earn 0.3 and whatever, and just crushing everybody. And now with inflation setting in, they don't really care because they've 5x their TradFi assets through leverage, or 10x or whatever. Even banks, they can take $1 in reserve and lend it out 10 times, fractional reserve lending. So that's what I still do personally. And as a financial planner, what I was helping people do with on the TradFi side. And when I realized you could do that with Anchor Protocol on Luna, I was like, wait a second, this is right up my alley. What is going on here? And what's cool is there's a couple other protocols that are not as well known, but Edge Protocol and Mirror Protocol on Terra, that you can use certain types of Luna as collateral and borrow against them. So Luna X is what I'm talking about. Luna X is actually a kind of auto-compounded pre-staked token, if you will, which is really kind of interesting, because one of the downsides of borrowing against Anchor Protocol, do you remember? We talked about it on this video. What was the downside to me being a borrower on Anchor Protocol? I park collateral, and what do I lose?
You're losing the interest on that collateral, correct?
That's right. I lose my staking yield.
Yeah, staking.
But since yep, and you're right, it's the interest.
Yeah.
Right now it's between 6 and 7%. But the Luna X token, what they do is they do the staking for you. They actually stake it the same way you would. But since they stake it for you, they auto compound it into the token. So instead of it spitting off interest, the interest just accumulates in the token. So even if the price of Luna stays flat, the token just it like blows up like a balloon, right?
Sure.
It expands like a balloon, not blows up, but expands. And what's cool is with Edge and Mirror Protocol, you can actually park Luna X as collateral, ergo, therefore keeping your staking yields, but still be able to borrow and get $1 wearing multiple hats. Whether you're trying to get more Luna, whether you're trying to get staking yield, like other farming yields or whatever it is, there's opportunities to do that. So I'm going to start a series on just that little niche. And I'm putting out a teaser video this weekend. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch that, because I running right back to that, like you were saying, let me a little background on my finance. I started early, just I was always taught, dividend stocks, this and that, just buy dividend stocks and that's it, and never take any all debt is bad.
Income.
You don't want any debt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so lately, what I've been doing a little bit. Let me see if this camera can. There we go. All right. Lately, what I've been doing
Yeah,
though is
you broke up for me a little bit. I don't know if you broke up for the stream, but you broke up for me, so I don't know if you want to repeat that. You said you didn't take on any debt, and lately, dot dot dot.
lately what I've been getting a little bit more into that, where getting into the whole idea of what you brought up, that not all debt is bad, and getting into the idea of good debt. And what I've been doing is, I got a collateralized loan through just a regular bank, but I did put some of that money into, I put some into, the reason why I brought up Alice Finance is because I put some into Alice Finance because it's super simple to use Alice. So I put a little bit
Yeah, good
in
for you,
there,
man.
and then, yeah, and then I put the rest into USDC, just on Voyager.
Which
Uh,
which I like, by the way. So a lot of people are very polarized, going back to the social media, right? Red state, blue state, rah, 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 right? People
yeah,
get so polarized. I actually, as much as I love DeFi, right? I actually believe there's going to be a big centralized winner and a big decentralized winner. And again, not investment advice. I could be wrong, but I think that both Voyager and I think that USDC will turn out to be the darling centralized regulated stablecoin. I
mhm.
think that'll turn out to be the winner. And I think that Voyager will turn out to be the premier exchange because they do offer yields for people just looking for the easy button. And then anybody who starts to migrate to DeFi, I think Luna and Bitcoin are going to be the big winners there. Not
Yeah.
financial advice for everybody, but I'm down with USDC. I'm down with earning the 9% there. I'm down with the debit card. Love it. I'm good. In fact, I'm trying to get from 500 VGX tokens to 5,000. So
That's where I'm
looking
at
for another
too.
dip. So hopefully they can FUD it some more for me so I can get my 5,000 and get my 2% cash back on the debit card.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think I'm about to break that 1,000. I'm about to break the 1,000 on VGX. But anyway,
Congratulations.
yeah. So then I'm also looking at, I'm looking at like all these different ways to kind of arbitrage. So I'm looking at like credit card arbitrage, and I'm like, I opened up a credit card that I don't
Yeah.
have to pay 0% interest on. But now that you brought that up, I'm like, that grabbed my attention, because that, like you say, that's right down my alley. Like I feel like that was the next step in like my financial journey, is like taking on good debt, because I don't have any debt. I don't have any bad debt. I don't have any bad debt. What I have is what you would call good debt, right? So
So I'll share a distinction with you, but let me ask you a question real quick. When you said collateralized loan, what did you park as collateral?
my car, my car.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah,
how much did you? No, that's awesome. A car's a depreciating asset. That is a perfect thing to take that out on.
exactly.
It's
That's the way that
beautiful.
I saw it. Yeah, that's the way that I saw it. It's like my car is making me money instead of just losing value. It's going to make me money elsewhere.
I love it. And how much did they give you a loan for? Like 3%?
2.5, 2.5.
2.5. And you're
Yeah,
earning 9 and 19 in stable coins, right?
exactly. Yep, that's correct.
That is beautiful. There's risk, right?
I know. Yeah,
There's obviously risk, but you're getting such a nice reward that you decided that the risk is you're willing to take a risk for the potential reward. I
exactly.
love it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna challenge you for a second, because you talked about good and bad debt, but I'm gonna actually challenge you that you may not be in debt at all. And here's why. If you have a liability over here, what was the, if you don't mind, just share with me the approximate amount of the loan you took.
It was a 10K.
So if you
10,000.
have a liability, a loan of $10,000, and you put all 10,000 in stable coins earning between 9 and 19%. So let's just say you have $10,000 that'll turn into 11, right? Somewhere thereabouts, close enough. That'll turn into 11 within a year.
Yep.
And then how much is your car worth?
Right now it's worth, according to them, it was worth like 18.
Okay. So you actually have $28,000 of assets backing a $10,000 debt, and you have liquid assets, the stable coins, that you can extinguish the debt at any moment. Are
Exactly.
you in debt, guy? Are you in debt?
No.
No, you're
No.
not in debt.
No, I'm not.
You're
Yeah.
not in debt. You have a liability of $10,000 that with a carrying cost of you owe 250. So that liability will turn from 10,000 to 250, but you have a liquid asset that is going to grow from $10,000 to $11,000, two liquid assets. The combo is going to grow from $10,000 to $11,000. So essentially, you're going to pick up $750 over the course of the year from doing this. Shigeo 808, by the way, he's another great guy to follow if you're into the borrowing thing, at SHIGEO 808. Lunanomics is his handle. He does a lot of stuff about borrowing on Anchor. He calls that a positive feedback loop. So if you could find that you got 750 out of that one, what if you found a way to do that 4 different times, where all 4 different times you could extinguish the debt at any moment with those liquid assets? Now all of a sudden your 250 or 750 just turned into 3,000, right? That's a positive feedback loop. And so you want to start thinking about your money in terms of that, of getting $1, wearing multiple hats, where you're still liquid and hopefully safe to where you can extinguish the debt if you need to. But given the terms and conditions, doesn't look like you're going to need to, are you?
Nope.
And the risk is, if, first of all, both UST and USDT would have to go to zero, in which case you would have to sell your nice car that's worth $28,000. That's a pretty nice car. For a used car to be worth that much, it's a nice car. You drive a nice car. You would have to sell a nice car and drive a slightly less car. So your risk is going from nice car to slightly less nice car. And your reward is creating positive feedback loops, which, by the way, you can keep stacking them on top of each other.
Wow. See, that you need to make a video on that.
What I'll probably just do is just cut this when you send me the feed, and I'll tweet both of us in it. How about that?
Yeah, that looks good. That's good to me. No, yeah, but I think that was like the next step, right, in my financial journey. And so now, like, I'm like, okay, now that I've done this, like, what's next? And so maybe that's next. What you just said,
you cut out
right there. What you just said is
okay.
Next.
Well, I like it. So yeah, you kind of migrated from TradFi dividend stocks, like Bogglehead dividend stocks, like, okay, this is it. It's just only this, right?
Yeah.
To like, okay, there's something here with this crypto, and like, well, now you were kind of gambling in crypto, and now you're gonna, instead of kind of being a gambler or a trader, you're gonna look at it like a business would, or a super high net worth whale would, and figure out how to get $1 and just keep stacking those positive feedback loops.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I think that's it. That's what's
cool,
next.
man. I know we've gone over.
Yeah. We've gone over. It's fine. Yeah.
I actually got to go play pickleball.
And I got to go to the gym. All
awesome.
right, man.
And look at us. We're like healthy guys. You're going to the gym. I'm going to play pickleball. Don't forget about your personal health too. Making money is all fine and good, but sometimes, and I've had periods of my life where I obsess over that at the expense of my health. So I love that we're both doing that.
Exactly. Look, healthy crypto guys. All right, man. It was awesome having you on. I'm gonna put timestamps on this video. I'll share it with you. And if you want to repost it on your channel, you're more than welcome to like repost it on your channel. But it was a pleasure having you. If you ever
that'd be great.
Yeah. If you want to repost it, you can. I'll go ahead and download it and do all this stuff, and I'll send it to you, man. But thank you for being here, man. It was a pleasure having you. Awesome guy. And again, if you are not following Hutch, his socials are down there. I linked his YouTube channel and his Twitter, so make sure that you follow him down there. Hutch, thank you so much for being on here. Any last words?
No, thanks for having me, and let's continue the conversation. This was fun.
Yeah, this was fun. We'll probably continue it some other day. I'll have you, or you'll have me on, or I'll have you on, whatever works. It'll be cool. Hey, thanks for
jump on some spaces too. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'll jump on the spaces too. All right, whoever's on the audience,
cool.
Thank you guys for watching,
Thanks,
and I'll catch you guys on the next one.